Good morning. Welcome to Westside Unitarian Universalist Church, where compassion leads us to work for justice and equality. I'm glad you came today, and it is my hope that you will find something here that nourishes your heart, feeds your mind, and grows your spirit. My name is Debbie Rake, and I'm your worship leader this morning. Be you a spiritual seeker, an atheist, or a theist, Westside is a community of many beliefs, genders, and sexualities, a community of diverse cultural, racial, and class backgrounds, a community of varied abilities and gifts. Some here find inspiration in the great books, others in the great outdoors, and others still in great conversations. Whoever you may be, all are welcome in our inclusive congregation. And to newcomers and old friends alike, together we say, welcome. Thank you. At Westside, we are raising the next generation of Unitarian Universalists, and we want them to know that they're an important part of our community. Several years ago, we chose to be radically inclusive and to adopt a multi-generational worship where our services include all family members. So, a special welcome to all children and youth of all ages. There are a number of announcements included in your order of service. Please take any of them with you that you might need for reminders this week or to share with others. I'd like to call your attention to the list of upcoming services. Next week, Cameron Young, our former director of Lifespan Religious Education, will be back to reflect on the gospel of Bob Marley. That should be great. For those of you joining us online or visiting with us today, if you are not already on our mailing list, please sign up by clicking the link at the bottom of our homepage at the westsideu.org website. And for those of you here in person with us, please take a moment to silence all your devices. Those listening online will have noticed by now that they're not seeing anything. We have not yet been able to solve the problem of our video. So, it's like old-time radio, guys. You just get to listen in. Today, our reflection will be presented by Kim Robinson. She will be speaking about Samaritan House. Kim is President and Chief Executive Officer of Tarrant County Samaritan Housing, which is affectionately known as Samaritan House. Kim has extensive nonprofit and for-profit experience. Most recently, she was the CEO for New Friends, New Life, and Chief Operating Officer for Girl Scouts of Northeast Texas. Prior to that, Kim spent nearly 20 years in senior marketing, strategy, and operations roles for several Fortune 500 companies, including Dean Foods, Hallmark Cards, and Frito-Lay. Kim holds a Master of Business Administration degree from Ohio State University and a Bachelor of Arts from Oakwood University in Alabama. Her 20-year-old twins are in college, and she and her husband are enjoying their next chapter of life. Now I invite you to take a deep breath, and from wherever you are, settle into this sacred space that we create. And let us worship together as we listen to this morning's prelude, Maple Leaf Rag by Scott Joplin, performed by Yuki Kumamoto. Yes. Our opening words are, "Come in, be among us." They are by Sherry Woodbury, who was formerly minister here at Westside. It will be a responsive opening. I will say some words, and then this side of the church will say, "Come in." Then the other side will say right away, "Be among us." Let's practice. To all who are yearning for community, come in, be among us. You guys are fast learners. Okay. To all who are just getting started, to all who long to go deeper, to all with tender places needing care, be among us. To the ones who have healed and have care to give, for those who are curious and hungry to learn, for those who know that they have something to teach, for the ones who are just beginning to suspect they might nurture others becoming, to the young and the old, the innocent and the jaded, the fresh of mind and the deeply steeped. There is room here for each and every one. Okay. As do many Unitarian Universalist congregations, we begin our time together this morning with the lighting of a chalice. I invite Sue Spell to come forward and light our chalice this morning. The chalice is the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith and represents the Unitarian Universalist Association, or UUA. The flaming chalice symbolizes the heritage of our past, the warmth of community, and the light of hope within this church today. The chalice lighting words today are "Honoring Our Common Connection and Our Uniqueness" by Adam Slate. Whew.
We gather this morning as one community, a community united by common ideals: love, justice, diversity, freedom, mutual care, equity. Yet look around. Look at the faces of those around you. Each face represents an individual. Every one of us with our own story, needs, strengths, and faults. We light our chalice today, honoring our common connection and also the uniqueness that lives within each of us.
Our opening hymn is number 361, "Enter, Rejoice, and Come in the gray hymnal. Please stand as you are able and join our song leader, Linda Ice. Please remain standing and join me in our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to work for justice through action, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. You may be seated. Please come forward if you are young at heart and would like to have a close-up view of our Time for All Ages, presented by our outstanding Director of Lifespan Religious Education, Nikki Kennedy. Then we will sing the kids out with number 118, This Little Light of Mine, in the gray hymnal.
Good morning. I'm so happy to see you guys. Just so you know, we have 8 kids in childcare today that are, can we say full of energy? So they opted to stay in there, and I said that was totally fine. I would share the story with them when I make it back. They're a little energy filled. I am happy to see you guys today. What was the weather like when you came in this morning? It was cold, it was dark. Was it wet or dry? Wet? I heard a voice coming from the back. It was wet. Taylor told us it was wet. Did you find any puddles to jump in? Yeah. You did? Did you jump in them? Only in your rain boots, right? Right?
I have shoes.
You have blue shoes on today. That's true.
I jumped in a pile of leaves.
You jumped in the puddle of leaves. Awesome.
I did.
You did? Well, I was wondering, so some of you guys go to school and some of you help get your siblings to school. How do you guys get to school on during the week? Not on Sundays. How do you get to school during the week? Do you fly? Do you ride a bike? Do you ride a bus? Do you walk? You ride a bus to school? What about you? How do you get to school? Hayes, you walk to school? And drive sometimes? Do you drive when it's wet?
No.
Oh, you don't drive when it's wet? Do you walk? Does Dad walk you to school? Yeah. Taylor, do you have fun walking to school? Yeah, sometimes. Okay. So when you're walking to school, do you ever take your lunch with you? Do you have a lunch box, or do you take you have a lunch box? Sometimes you buy lunch at school. Well, have you ever taken a paper sack, a brown paper sack of lunch to school? Never? Okay. Well, have you ever seen a brown paper sack? Oh, okay. So I'm going to ask you to imagine something with me. Some people have brown paper sacks they take lunch in because some of them may not be able to have a lunch box because maybe they can't keep up with it. Or maybe they're going on a field trip and they can take a paper sack and then they can recycle the paper sack instead of keeping up with a lunchbox all day. The thing with a paper sack is if it gets wet, what happens to paper when it gets wet? Have you ever seen paper get wet? It gets mushy, doesn't it? That's right. If you scratch it, it rips. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So it does get wet. Yep, it can get wet. So I want you to imagine you guys are walking to school one day with Dad, and there's puddles everywhere, and you're wearing your big rain boots and a rain jacket, and you're jumping in all those puddles on the way to school. How many puddles are we going to jump in? 1 puddle, 2 puddles, 3 puddles, 4 puddles, 5 puddles. Okay, 5 puddles. That's a good goal. But what happens if we jump in a puddle and we drop our sack lunch? What happens to the sack lunch if we drop it in a puddle of water? The food might get ruined. So what if, but if you have in your rain boots, it's okay. If Mom and Dad say you can jump in a puddle in your rain boots, then it's okay. So let's go back to the sack lunch. So in the sack lunch, you drop it in a puddle of water and it gets ruined. It's your favorite lunch, For me, my favorite lunch would be peanut butter and banana sandwich, and it would be some Cheetos, and it would be some pitted dates with a little bit of cream cheese in it. That was my favorite lunch in elementary school, and maybe an apple on the side. But if I dropped it in the water, it would be ruined. I may have cried a little bit, or I may be really sad, but when it got to lunchtime, what would I do? I wouldn't have a lunch anymore. So what do you think? What do you think could happen? Yes,
Bye.
Taylor, I could buy it, but what happens if I didn't have any money? I didn't take any money, and the school doesn't have any money for me to get a lunch. Yes, Ellis? Are you still thinking? So what if a friend offered me some of their food? What if a teacher saw me not eating and offered to buy me a lunch? What if one of your friends at school didn't have food? What would you do? Do you think you'd help?
Get a new one.
That you'd help them get a new lunch? What did you say? Hey, give them some food. Yep. So when we help so that's one way we can help other people, right? Sometimes people are hungry, and hunger is something that we can all make a difference, right? We can all help feed other people in our community. And I know you guys, and a lot of you young at heart people, have helped feed people that are hungry. So this week, when you go to school, I want you to use your eyes to look and your heart to feel and see if there's ways that you can help people in your school to make their day better. Maybe it could be a high five, maybe it could be a hug, maybe it could make sure everybody has enough food. But I wonder this week how we are all going to help people in need. And I can't wait to hear about, when I see you next week, how you've helped those in need. I hope you have an excellent week. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brenda McKeon, and I am your pastoral care associate this morning. In our community here at Westside, we take time each week to share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this because of each person in this community has value. Submit your joys or concerns to the team by completing one of these forms at the Westside desk, emailing us at pastoralcare@westsideu.org, or contacting John Fisher, Debbie Raitt, Carol Kappa, Barbara Crotty, or Jane Hardwick, who are the members of the Tarrant team. We share our concerns with one another today, knowing that our sorrows come into each one's lives, knowing that together we offer comfort. And we have one concern. It's from Jane Hardwick for Sharon Salee. Sharon has been in the hospital for about 1.5 weeks due to a very low sodium level. She is recovering slowly. She appreciates kind words, and healing thoughts by phone. Please leave a message if she is unable to answer you. We also share our concerns with one another, knowing that we share our joys with one another, knowing too that joys come into our lives, knowing that together our voices can raise a chorus of celebration. And we have several. We have one from Jeff Collini. Just one second, it disappeared. He said, "Good news, my radiation treatments eradicated the cancer remnants remaining on from my prostate surgery in last May. Done with treatment and ready to move on." We have another joy from Linda Ice. Along with my co-coordinator of Westside Samaritan House Supper Club, Cindy Fountain, it seems appropriate today to express our joy in working with some very dear members of Westside month after month. We have served a meal every third Thursday for over 15 years, including providing a catered meal during the pandemic. Meaningful relationships have been developed through the years within our team and the residents of Samaritan House. If you are interested in joining our team or would like more information, please contact Linda in the office personally. We would love to have you join our team. If you are here this morning or are so inclined, please stand and as I'm going to call your names, these are our current members of our team. Sue Anderson, Jeff Collini, Mary Alice Kretzinger, Bren and Zach Freeman and their boys, Haynes, Ellison, Taylor, Cindy Fountain, Glenda Hood, Jerry Coppa, Brenda McKeon, Myrtle McMahon, Diane Nixon, and Michael Oglesby. Thank you all. I'd also like to add that David Lotvin has been our Lisa's chicken pickup guy for the last 5 or maybe 6 years, and we owe him a huge thank you as well. And lastly, 2 joys, one from Jane Hardwick. What a fabulous casino night we had Friday. Lots of fun and laughter. Many thanks to Linda and Myron Ice, all the helpers, and all of those who were there to make it a fabulous evening. Hope it paid off too. And from Nikki, huge appreciation to all who helped make our Betting with Love night on Friday a success. We had over 90 people in the building, all had fun, great fellowship. What a joy. We make time each week for musical centering, knowing that together the experience of each person matters, and together our light shines bright. We hold all the joys and concerns among us, both those spoken and unspoken. Let us sing our centering song, 352, in the gray hymnal, Find Us Still. Uh-huh. So we'll sing our centering song, 352, in the gray hymnal, Find Us Still.
Good morning. My name is Jana Kennard, and I'm one of the meditation leaders here at Westside. Our meditation this morning will begin with an introduction before we move into a minute of silence. Our bell will sound to signal the start of your own meditation, prayer, or reflection, and it will sound again at the end. Our meditation today is an excerpt from chapter 8, Beyond the Comfort Zone, from the book we're reading in our Thursday evening meditation group. It's called Welcoming the Unwelcome by Pema Chodron. In this very brief time that we have on earth, we have to ask ourselves how we're going to spend our time. Will we keep increasing and strengthening our neurotic habits in our vain quest for some kind of lasting comfort and pleasure? Or will we make it a practice to step out into the learning zone? It's almost terrifying how fast life goes by, especially at my age. She's in her 80s. Even though I move slowly and like a lot of space, there's this feeling that I'm rushing to catch up. At the end of each day, what did I do? Did I spend the day strengthening my comfort orientation? Did I indulge in nostalgia for samsara, as Trungpa Rinpoche liked to say, by longing for the time when I thought I just needed a lovely cup of tea to be happy? Or did I step out into groundlessness and truly take refuge in the three jewels? Did I lighten up and loosen up? Or did I hunker down in my armor and try to maintain the status quo? Status quo is not very helpful for spiritual growth, for using the short interval between birth and death. On the other hand, expanding our ability to feel comfortable in our own skin and in the world so that we can be there as much as possible for other people is a very worthy way to spend a human life. May we be good company to one another in our questions and our journey. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Here at Westside, we practice our UU faith in a variety of ways. One of those ways is by giving 100% of gifts to our weekly collection, unless otherwise designated, to support organizations who carry out our transcendent values of compassion, justice, and equality. Westside's plate offering for February is Meals on Wheels of Tarrant County. Meals on Wheels' mission is to promote the dignity and independence of older adults, persons with disabilities, and others who are homebound by delivering nutritious meals and coordinating other needed services. Meals on Wheels of Tarrant County celebrated its 50th year in 2023 and serves all of Tarrant County, now providing more than 1 million meals each year. Westside member John Fisher is a Meals on Wheels client and graciously shared some thoughts for our 2021 Meals on Wheels offertory, saying that the meals are warm and delicious and that Meals on Wheels volunteers are as unfailing as U.S. mail service was when my father was a letter carrier. Side note, Meals on Wheels has volunteer openings, and a link is in the newsletter showing open routes. When the pandemic hit in 2020, Meals on Wheels took on more clients than ever. Thanks to the CARES Act, it was able to sustain its meal service as it has for 50 years. As most of us know, CARES funding has ended, and though some pandemic-era clients have resumed their lives without Meals on Wheels, many have not. So with a shortfall of about $2 million, Meals on Wheels had to make a decision. They did not want to create a waiting list, as Dallas County has done, but rather reduced the number of breakfasts that they provide each week, alongside the daily hot lunches. Still, as John said in 2021, Meals on Wheels does life-saving work. Indeed it does. Please give generously as you are able, and thank you. You can give online through the church's giving page or by using the Vanco mobile app. Select the Service Project Fund. You can also mail a check to the church, 901 Page, Fort Worth. Thank you for your offering. The offertory today will be What a Wonderful World by Bob Thiel as George Douglas and George David Weiss, and performed by Jonathan Sarmiento and Yuki. Thank you for putting into practice the spiritual virtue of generosity. Our giving connects us to the wider web of our community. And thank you for also keeping your stewardship commitment current to keep our congregation's important work going. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce our reflection speaker, Kim Robinson.
Good morning, West Side. Well, I have to tell you, this is my first time here, but it feels like home. After all that you have done for Samaritan House, with Samaritan House, how could it not feel like home? And as was said earlier, your supper club program aligns perfectly with the supper club program at Samaritan House, and you all recognize the need and you put it into action. You put your efforts into action, and you've done it for so many years with Samaritan House. So I can't thank you enough for that. You know, if you think about how to show love, how to show empathy, how to show respect, giving a meal meets that. It exceeds that. I can't think of right now a better way to say, I empathize and sympathize with your situation, and I want to help. So thank you again for all of the individuals that are a part of Supper Club. You all stood earlier, but I want to say thank you personally. I also want to thank Debbie for being so kind to me today. I want to thank Linda for all the follow-up. Oh man, she is excellent at keeping me on track. And I want to thank you all for being here. I want to share just a little bit more about Samaritan House. Many of you are familiar with the organization. Some of you may not be. And there have certainly been some changes. I came on board just over 2 years ago. My predecessor, Norbert White, has been to this church, but Norbert is living in another state now. He passed the torch to me, and I have been serving so proudly for over 2 years, and I want to tell you about what we're doing. And along the way, I might inject just a couple of analogies to underscore the point. We've got some slides, and I will just let you know when it's time to advance those, and we'll go from there. But I want to start by saying, how many of you remember when you were in driver's ed? For some, you have to think way back. Yeah, me too. I have to go way back in the memory, but I was reminded of it not too long ago when my twins were learning to drive. We had two learning to drive at one time. The fact that I'm standing here and my husband is in the audience, the fact that we made it through that time is a testimony in itself. But I remember being in the back seat, all of a sudden finding myself with no control. So whether you were in driver's ed or a parent in the back seat while someone is driving a car, especially your child, you realize, oh, I have no control, none. And you're relying on that child or whoever's in that front seat with them to guide them, hopefully. But when you're in the front seat, that view is clear, right? So while you were in the back seat, there were things that you saw that you may, if you had been in the front seat, you would have said, oh my goodness, be aware of that. In the back seat, you couldn't see it, so you couldn't say anything, or you saw things along the way, and you said, oh man, I would do this, I would do that. In the front seat, it's a little better because you have a little more visibility and you know the person can hear you. But when you're physically in that driver's seat again, you regain that control. Well, that's what we want to do at Samaritan House. We want to enable our residents to have more control over their life. And in this analogy, to be able to grip the steering wheel of their life. Because when you're gripping that steering wheel, who's in control? You are. You are in control. All right, so next slide. The first thing that we do when a resident comes to us is we invite them to accept what has already happened. We say, you know, if you look back at your life and the choices you made, think of yourself as having been in the back seat at that time. Things may not have gone the way you wanted and determined that they would. You didn't grip the steering wheel at that time and perhaps didn't listen to the driving instructor. Well, we say to our residents, if bad things have happened in your life, it is part of your journey. It does not, however, define you. We say when life doesn't match your vision, that's when you choose to own your story. So looking at the slide, it talks about the mission of Samaritan House, which ultimately we are there for individuals who find themselves in untenable situations because they may have been homeless or on the verge of homelessness, because they have a chronic illness and don't quite know how to care for themselves, or any number of circumstances. And you can see from the slide that we offer a breadth of services. Affordable housing, there is not enough affordable housing anywhere. And Tarrant County is no different. Social work, case management. If an individual needs that service, meaning not only do they need housing, they need someone to partner with them to help them understand or maintain or get signed up for the services that will better their life. So in a case where you may have children and they need care that you can't give them right then, that's where Samaritan House takes hold. If you're not familiar with the school system as a client of ours, that's where Samaritan House can take hold. If you have a chronic illness and you've never had medical care for it, that's where Samaritan House can take hold by pointing you in the right direction to care providers who can provide the medicine for you, you can follow up with on a regular basis, and you can get there. Substance abuse counseling. Substance abuse has so many different forms. And we have a substance abuse counselor in the last week. I have added a program manager, and that is her specialty, as well as mental health. And I am so excited about her and what she will do and the things actually that she's already done. If you, or when you are at Samaritan House again, please ask about her. Her name is Deborah Adams. We got a couple of Deborahs. Ask about Deborah and the wonderful things that she's doing. Hot meals, of course, you all know about because you're a part of that program, providing supper for our residents, and you have done that on a consistent basis for quite some time. Transportation assistance, we don't physically transport residents, but if there is a need, we have gas cards or we have bus passes so that an individual can get to an appointment or wherever they need to go. Transportation should not ever be an issue or an excuse for not being able to take care of yourself. Life skills coaching, training, that is something that I feel like we are just now beginning actually to ramp up. There were so many things to unravel after COVID, which of course is when I came on board. So many things to unravel after COVID and ramp up again, start again. And life skills is one of those things that I truly believe you have to have the right skill set, the right people to do that. And I know we have identified those folks now, so I'm looking forward to what's ahead. And then resident services, which is a lot of things, but in short, it's providing assistance to apartments in the area. These are not our apartments in the area where it's a requirement that they offer supportive services, but they may not know how. So on a yearly basis, there are over 400 individuals and families that we're able to serve. So of those 400 individuals, there are about 160 to 180 apartment units available that we spread those 400 individuals and families out among. All right. So many times in our lives, in our residents' lives, we found ourselves dropped, crumbled, on the ground, dirty by the decisions we've made and circumstances that may come our way. And let our residents know that they are worthwhile at all times. No matter what has happened, they will never lose their value, and they will never be crumpled. They're always priceless. I liken it to this shiny dollar bill, right? And I'll just ask for the next slide, please. With this $20 bill, actually, if I offered it to you, who would turn it down? Maybe some, but I would dare say any of us, I know I would, I'd say thank you very much and try to put it to good use. All right, so if I folded this $20 bill, okay, how many of you still want this $20 bill? Okay, I want it, if you don't. All right, then what if I dropped it on the ground? Would you want that $20 bill? Depends, mixed reaction. If I did this, then picked it up, you want this $20 bill? Right, because it's still what? It's still $20, still money, right? Still money, right? I liken this to our lives, right? Some are shiny, some are folded, some are torn maybe, some are on the ground. At the end of the day, though, they're still money. Our lives were still valuable. Still valuable. And that's the way we think about our residents at Samaritan House. So since 1991, we've been serving in Tarrant County. This is all history that has been fed to me because, of course, I wasn't there in 1991. In 1991, I had graduated from college, and I was in my first job. But the organization was, at that time, viewed as a hospice for individuals that were dying from HIV or AIDS. It was meant to be a place where people could come, have their dignity, and if they passed away there, they would have passed away with dignity. And for so many years, that is how Samaritan House operated to this day. That is a tenet of Samaritan House. Along the way, we have advanced the population that we serve and our services because people are living longer, healthy lives. So we transitioned to supportive housing, which is a term, in 2000, which encompassed a couple of additional things, like having caseworkers for any chronic illness or disability. Anything that you were living with and did not have the funds or the income to be able to have permanent housing, that is who we helped. Now, housing, I view it as this layer of the triangle. So at the bottom of a triangle, this is the foundation. What's foundational for us, me, is food, clothes, shelter. Okay? And so That's the foundational element that without it, it's hard to go this way. It's hard to go this way. So we make sure this is a given for the individuals that are at Samaritan House. It's there as long as they want it, as long as they need it. And from there, we can add our support services as the sides of that triangle to help them reach their full potential. All right, so the Villages at Samaritan House is where so many individuals, which is right down the street, is where so many individuals have been and what you know. Those 3 brick buildings there are officially the Villages, and then we have a single room occupancy area which houses just over 50 individuals, give or take, as people come or go. And that one is dedicated solely to individuals who are living with HIV or AIDS, okay? And then throughout all of our facilities, there are individuals who may be living with HIV or AIDS. We serve any chronic illness or disability. And we've added additional supportive services for individuals who have other types of illnesses and need help. All right, next page. You all should have been looking at that page, but that's fine. It's men and women and families, as you may have guessed, and especially individuals who are experiencing homelessness or have experienced homelessness. Next slide, please. All right, I talked about affordable housing and supportive services, so let's dive into it a little bit more. As I said before, this is a snapshot of the Villages, which are right there on Hemp Hill Street. That's the first building that Samaritan House started with about 16 or so years ago. That was housing outside of the SRO. So these apartments are serving a wide array of individuals. I'd say the common thread is just it's affordable. The common thread is it's affordable housing. So you have to meet the parameters of that to be able to live there. There are 66 apartment units in the Villages. Next slide. All right, so here you have a closer look at the SRO, and that is where our supper club, that is where the food is distributed, but it's open to any individual, really, anyone that lives throughout the Villages if there is a need. But it's congregate living, meaning there are individual rooms with bathrooms and bed and a desk, and then all food is in the middle of that building, the cafeteria, as we call it, and dining hall where residents can eat or they can take it back to their room. We have individuals there who need intensive support and some that don't. We have a patient navigator. That patient navigator is there for individuals to come to and say, I need more help. You know, I can't get to this doctor, or I saw this doctor, and this doctor was not right for me. What social services are there that I can take advantage of? I have no income. What can I do? Any other questions? That patient navigator their job is to make sure you get what you need, not necessarily from their capabilities, but by their resources and the individuals and agencies that they know and are aware of in Tarrant County, point folks in the right direction. We talked about transportation assistance, substance abuse, and it's 3 meals a day, every day of the week. So there's a dining staff that's there. It's a limited dining staff, but they're doing their best to crank out breakfast, lunch, and dinner if it's not provided, okay? I won't go into all of the types of care that we have. There's shelter plus care, You all can read them. There's Genesis, Care, but it shows you how many or what our maximum occupancy is right beside each of those. Next slide, please. All right. Grace Village is one where if you have a child who has a disabling or chronic condition or chronic illness, Grace Village, if there are openings, there are very few units, and people tend to stay once they're there. It's permanent housing no matter where you are if you're in the Samaritan House system. Individuals who are there have a child or someone in their family who has a chronic illness and needs care. So if it's a baby and that baby has an illness that you're not familiar with, and if you're living on the street, you're homeless or about to be, Samaritan House tries to help. I mean, I can't imagine being homeless with a child. I can't imagine being homeless, but I cannot imagine with a child as well. And if that child on top of that has a disabling condition, how successful is anyone going to be in that situation? So that is what Grace Village is for. Hanratty Apartments are also just down the street. It's a small apartment complex, but the only requirement there is that you need housing and you don't have the income to afford it in a traditional setting. So you need affordable housing, then we offer you affordable housing. All right. Next slide. We at the end? Okay, wonderful. Can we go back to the starter slide? The very first one. All right, so in a nutshell, our philosophy is that the present is not all there is. This moment is only a moment at Samaritan House. Our residents, oftentimes, they wake up, they may feel hopeless or have a heavy heart, but we say to them, choose to believe that your life is worth it. It's worth the effort. And ask yourself, what's next? That's what we're focused on, is what is next. Even with a physical disability or a chronic illness, we're encouraging them to choose to give themselves the best opportunity to live and release the full strength of what's inside of them. And focus is another big tenet, as I close, of what we do at Samaritan House. We let our residents know, or we tell them all the time, we have to focus. It's natural, it's human to drift from time to time, but what happens is we get distracted when we do that. So we say, well, how do you get back on track? If you are distracted, you have to focus. Pay attention and live aware. A small drift unattended will over time make a huge impact on your final destination. All right, so if I go back to the driving analogy, so you find yourself veering from where you wanted to go, what do you have to, in most cases, stop and do? You have to stop and focus and say, okay, where am I going? What do I do next? Pull out your phone and figure out the best next route. And that is exactly what we're trying to do. At Samaritan House, we're attempting to help our residents, once they pulled out that phone, find the best next step, look ahead, and have confidence that they're going to get there. Thank you, West Side. You all have been a tremendous audience, and it has been such a pleasure to be before you today.
Please stand as you're able and join in the closing hymn, number 1064, in your teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home. We'll just sing the first two verses.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from your holy ocean, still I find that home can sing. I've been sailing all my life, never harbor or port have I found. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ride the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, knowing kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens, in our beautiful blue boat home.
Our closing words today are An Unquenchable Flame by Ben Atherton Zeman. As we extinguish the flame on our chalice, we ignite it inside ourselves. Our commitment to our mission and to one another is an unquenchable flame. Let us remember, we're not alone until we light this flame next time. The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each one of you. Carry that flame with you as you leave this place and share it with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you have yet to meet. And now, please join me in the congregational closing. Go in peace, seeking justice. Go in peace, committed to equal rights and opportunities for all. Go in the peace that is created when, together, we build communities of true solidarity, deep compassion, and fierce, unrelenting love. Go in peace. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.